So welcome back to the shop, everybody. This has been a highly requested episode and something that's been on my mind for well over a year. We have lots of pieces of equipment here on the property, from mini excavators to a couple of different tractors, and we're always getting attachments in. So needless to say, I've made a ton of trips back and forth to the hydraulic shop in town to get a bunch of hoses made, and I've had sticker shock almost every single time. So when I finally sat down and crunched up the numbers, how much a hydraulic hose crimper, how much hydraulic lines, and how much hydraulic fittings are, my jaw like to hit the floor. I am consistently seeing anywhere from 200 to 500% markup on these hoses and fittings from the hydraulic shops versus what I can do them for. Long story short, even though these hydraulic crimpers are several $100s, that's what's kept me from buying one, and that's dirt cheap, by the way, compared to the tens of $1,000 big industrial units. I realized that just my next 2 attachments and hoses that I make myself will pay for this machine completely. All right, so these type of hydraulic crimpers are all over Amazon, eBay, everywhere. I'll even put a link down in the description to some on Amazon that seem to have some pretty decent reviews. But just find the cheapest one that you get, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because they all look absolutely identical. The only difference is some will come with 8 dies, some come with 9 die sets right here. That's what actually goes in and crimps different size hoses. But even the 8 die set seems to cover all your common size hoses and fittings. And then I jumped on Vivor's website because they have literally everything. They do not have this press right now, but I hear that it may be coming. So I just went ahead and bought mine from somebody else. But their hydraulic hoses, oh, the reviews are excellent and they are unbelievably affordable, especially if you'll buy it in 100-foot rolls in bulk like I did. Most common sizes I'll be running is 3/8 and 1/2 inch. Now, ultimately, you're gonna have to jump online and find whatever size fittings you need. There's just a million different types of fittings out there. This is something I'm still learning, you know, to determine what your equipment uses. And ultimately, your hydraulic connectors, I'm starting to use what's called a very common flat face coupler. So today's gonna be all about putting this machine together, testing it, and building 2 hydraulic hoses, sneak peek for a brand new attachment that I have. Quick shout out to a YouTube channel called Simply Tinker. I stumbled across this video whenever I was researching buying one of these, and he converted his with an air over hydraulic pump, so I ordered one of those as well from Vivor. They have everything. All this is bought and paid for, by the way. Because even though this has a manual pump, I hear it's extremely slow. We'll test that today, and I'm gonna convert it to where all I have to do is step on a pedal, hook this to my air tank over there, and it will compress these without wearing my arm out. All right, a little sneak peek for our everyday viewers. I have finally got me a much needed attachment in. We'll go over this in an upcoming episode where I'll show it off, but it's a hydraulic tilt bucket. I've got road work and ditch digging to do in an upcoming episode for drainage. This is gonna be amazing. Now, it does not come with hoses, so I had to find out from the manufacturer what fittings these were. That was easy to do. I ordered those in. All right, I'm gonna cut to a clip right here so you can see how I did some measuring. You know, for starters, you're gonna wanna tilt the bucket all the way in, get a measurement, you're gonna wanna tilt it all the way out, and then I'm probably gonna add a few inches to that. We can always, you know, zip tie up the hoses on the side if they're a little too long, and I don't wanna have all these hoses made up and risking them not fitting, especially being that I only have 3 fittings, 1 spare in case I crimp wrong for one of the ends. Now, what's really cool, a good friend of mine just had these same exact hoses made up for the same exact bucket on the same exact machine. I've got his receipt, and we're gonna crunch the numbers on what I spent on my materials, and I'm gonna show you right offhand for 2 very simple hoses how much money I saved doing it in-house. Now, the more extravagant hoses we get, the longer we get, we save even more money in the future. Okay, so the good, very affordable. The bad, everything's in metric. It's a Chinese-made machine, obviously. Hopefully it holds up. But again, if I can make a couple sets of hoses, this is literally paid for itself. So I'm willing to gamble. But as a result, it comes with a horrible manual with basically no information. Our guide is up top. Took a little bit to figure this out. Everything is in millimeters, as you can see. So all these numbers right here, this is the millimeter size of whatever the hose you're gonna crimp. That's outside. Up here is what's called a dial set. You see we got a little micrometer or dial right here that's got numbers on it that will go in and out. Supposedly, mine's shipped with a battery already installed. See that light that comes on? Supposedly, if we set this micrometer to these settings right here, after we match up to our proper hose size and we got the right size dies in there, the light will come on when we're crimping. Again, thanks to Simply Tinker. And I also used to make hydraulic hoses in one of my first jobs working for an auto parts store, he just goes to the PSI, crimp to 4,000 PSI on this gauge. I think that's what we're gonna go with and not trust this little light, because all that feels flimsy, but it is on there. Now, once you find out your millimeter hose size, you come over to your die set. Don't worry about these numbers. They don't really mean much in my mind, other than down here in this tray, you can see they're numbered. So just do that corresponding number right there to whatever die set you have. And that just opens and closes the hole size based on the size fittings that you have. So let me show the way this works. You're gonna need a couple of extra tools. Most shops will have a micrometer. So we've got our hydraulic hose here, 3/8 hose, but we wanna find out the metric number. So I turn my micrometer over to millimeter. Let's measure the outside. 18.6, almost, right at 18.9, right at 19. So now we'll come right here to 19 millimeter. Go over, it's telling me to use number 16 die set. This one right here. So we always want to keep these bags labeled, and I'm probably going to put these in order and write the number in the bottom in case I ever throw the bag away. Now, you know, we're showing 18.9, but close to 19, so we would set our micrometer down here. Don't worry about these numbers that I'm covering up. You want to worry about these numbers right here. I know it's hard to see. We'll go in to, I just touched the number 3 line. Very, very hard to see. Again, I'm not trusting this. I'm gonna do like Simply Tinker said, go to 4,000 PSI on this gauge. So before we start doing our crimping, let's cut our hose. You can do this with angle grinder, abrasive cutoff disc, or I'm just gonna use my standard steel cutoff saw right here. I had measured around 58 inches for one of my hose links, and we're gonna add, you know, another 7 or 8 inches to that to give me some room and some play. And we can go over and do a rough fit of this before we do our last crimp. All right, let's cut this and see how it does. Now you can see all the sparks because this has a lot of steel wire in there. That's why you want to use a saw rated for cutting metal. And I want to blow this out. I don't want any potential trash or debris in my hydraulic system. All right, so now we'll take our 3/8 fitting right here, make sure it is fully seated. That's important. And let's put our die set in. Remember, it was the number 16. I showed you how we got that. So these dies have a little notch groove that slides into notch groove on the inside. Nothing quick about this process, but we're not setting up a production shop here. Just trying to get ourselves going without making trips to town and spending crazy amounts of money. And now we can make quick repairs at home, assuming we have the right fittings, and get back to work. And with all this money I'm saving, I'm planning on quickly reinvesting the first little bit of savings into just buying more hydraulic fittings, 90s, all kinds of stuff, common use fittings. So whenever I do have problems, I'm broke down on a job site or something, I can get myself back going quickly. All right, so you can see how those fit all right in there. Now, our 3/8 style fitting should fit right in. If we've got everything correct, yes, that looks really good. Again, we want to make sure our fitting is nice and bottomed out. I'm going to slide it through the front side and then start pumping over here. At least till it grabs a hold of it, and then we'll have a quick discussion. So I've got the fitting barely sticking past these little crimpers inserts that we just put in the dies. That looks to be correct. Another good time to double check that the hose is bottomed out in here so we don't get a bad crimp. On this machine, you tighten this knob right here, and you have to turn to ventilation on this cap. It did ship with oil, so that's awesome, but this got all these warnings on there. You can twist this, completely close it, which does not allow air to enter, so you're not going to pump the oil out. You've got to turn it to vent when in use. You can close it so it doesn't spill on you when you move it. Close this off. This is your release valve to release the pressure out of here. This is spring loaded to push all the fluid back out. So that has to be closed. And now you just start manually pumping. I think I'm already at 11 pumps. So let's start counting this See how long it takes to either see the light here or go to 4,000 PSI is what I'm looking for. Already got a problem. We got a leak. So I'm leaking hydraulic fluid somewhere right here. All right, so note to self, if y'all order one of these, check all your fittings first. Looks like that's probably gonna be a 19 millimeter. While I'm at it, I'll go ahead and check all the other fittings. Something I should have did anyways. All right, I released the pressure. We're gonna put it back. We didn't even really start doing any crimping. Let's start this again. All right, I'm already at 70. All right, we just bumped 4,000 and came back. My light never came on, so don't trust that. Kind of already knew that. 147 pumps. That's counting my initial pumps to close it up just to make it touch this fitting. Yeah, we're gonna take care of that. All right, so let's release the pressure and check out our crimp. I crimped a little far back, y'all. Oops. Well, you live and you learn. Luckily, I bought a bulk 10 pack of these. They were very, very cheap. Hose is a little long. So I think I'm gonna cut this off and try again since I picked these up super affordable. And we're going to run this further back in the die. Might as well show you my failures too, but you can see, my goodness, we got a super tight crimp, didn't we? You know what, before we go through all that, I'm not hand pumping 150 times per fitting. That's where this air over hydraulic pump's gonna come in that I picked up. Let's use it. Okay, obviously y'all seen as is, it will absolutely crimp by hand. So for those of you who are not making fittings very often, the hand pump's gonna be just fine. But we're gonna be upgrading mine because I'm getting a lot of attachments and constantly making hoses. So I want the air over hydraulic. This cost me about, it was a little less than $100 on Vevor with the discount code that I have. I'll put a link in the description, not sponsored. And these run anywhere from $400 to $600 depending on where you look at them at. So for a fraction of what this costs to upgrade it to air over hydraulic, seemed like a good deal to me. But basically we're gonna take this off and see how we can adapt everything together here. All right, so we definitely want to leave this right here in line. So let's see what all we got to do to make this work. All right, after running to the hydraulic shop, I did have to get one fitting. So note, I'm going to go ahead and walk y'all through this, and then we're going to make our hoses. Ultimately what this is about. But if you decide you want to do the air over hydraulic pump, which again I recommend, you're going to have to get one fitting. The air over hydraulic pump comes with a bunch of different fittings. So as you can see, I took the fitting and this is where the gauge was, all that apart. There's just a T right there. There was a 90 that goes into the pump, which we're gonna have to use. One side has an O-ring style, which is inside here, so don't worry about that, that's already included. The other side's just 3/8 NPT. Well, the air over hydraulic pump comes with a few fittings, which we'll actually be using all of them, but that one and the air fitting's not the right style for USA. Come with a hose, which I installed right on the front side, and it's got 3/8 NPT on the other side. So I need to take this elbow that come out of the hydraulic pump, since this is now gonna be our hydraulic pump, 3/8 NPT. We gotta put those two together, 3/8 NPT. So I ran to the hydraulic shop and got a stainless hydraulic rated 3/8 coupler. That's the only part I had to go pick up. So I'm about to put the pipe thread material on here, put these two together, very straightforward. And then this elbow goes right into the T there with an O-ring style fitting. And then the other side will go right back into here. And I got to put this little seal back in here. And that is where our gauge goes. So everything's already included except for this small coupler. You can see ultimately what I'm doing is just completely disconnecting this pump, getting it gone. I'm probably gonna completely remove it, put it on the shelf. We'll use it for something else in the future. And just setting this up for this now to be my air over hydraulic pump. You can see what we did here. I did forget to mention earlier, this comes with a quick disconnect, so I wound up threading that in just before this fitting that we removed from the hand pump, and then before we went back into the factory tee with the gauge and everything else. So what we did, we removed this from the hand pump and then added it to this fitting that I just went to town to get, the coupler, 3/8 coupler, and then all the rest of this came with the foot pump. Now all I got to do is unscrew this, and it's spring loaded, so it holds the fluid in here, holds the fluid in here. Because this is so heavy, I want to be able to pick this up, go put it on the shelf, then I want to come back, grab my pump, put it on the shelf, so I like the fact that I can disconnect these two. All right, I'm going to cut the end off this hose, put a new one on because I didn't like the last crimp. I need to go a little further up, right to where it starts rounding over. We'll have that sticking right out of the dies, and let's see how all this looks. All we got to do is step on this pedal and watch the gauge. Clamping down, pressure should start building. Boy, this is a whole lot easier. I'm also looking for leaks. We're up to 2,000 PSI already. There's 4,000 PSI. Now you can see on the front side of this pump, we can press release and all the fluid will rush back to the tank. That's why your vent has to be open. This is the pump side, release side, so let's do that. See how quick it released. Now the spring tension will start slowly opening up the dies in there, pushing that cylinder back out. And wow, we are crimped like crazy. Almost to be a little over crimped. This is stuff that I'm gonna have to figure out myself. And looks like I probably should have slid it back a little further in there, but you know what, we'll try this out. I did buy extra fittings just in case. I am not making hoses for public for sale where there's any liability or legal concerns where there could be under crimps, over crimps, potential equipment blowing out and stuff falling. It's just for my type of equipment for work here around the farm and our other properties. All right, so we definitely want to go back in a little further. I'm learning. Now we need to crimp this very special fitting on the other end. This is for like BSP, I think that's British hookups. It's got a special O-ring in there. I did buy an extra one of these just in case. Let's put this in. This is what's actually going to attach to the cylinders on our bucket. All right, I'm going to insert this in a little further since I didn't really like the way the crimp turned out on the other one. Put you over here to watch the gauge. You can see how quick that goes up. All right, it takes a minute. Start going in and cinching down. And then the pressure will start rapidly jumping up. All right, we hit 4,000 pretty quick. Let's release this out. Man, that's a heck of a crimp right there. All right, our first hose is made. I'm grinning from ear to ear because that worked out great. Yet another new skill to learn. I always encourage y'all to learn skills, whether it be welding, woodworking, mechanicking, or working in hydraulics. So happy to say, after many cycles on and off camera, no leaks, no issues. I could have cut these even shorter, but I don't know, that all looks good right there. I've got me some removable zip ties coming to where I can put this in, you know, clamp it on when in use, but I mean, all the digging's gonna be going on down here. It's not like we're brush clearing with this. I really don't expect these hoses as is to get caught up on anything. Really, they're just fine as they are. Well, I just got in a Rhinox 36-inch tilt grading bucket. That's what all this hose works for, if y'all want to look that up. But that's not what this video is about. We'll be showing this off in an upcoming project. Now, with this sweet machine that I bought last year, we can go do ditch work, grading, off grading, you know, sky's the limit. We can tilt up to any angle we want and dig and trench. And I've got some road work to do, that's for sure. Can't wait to show y'all that. But today's video is about the hydraulics. Let's wrap this video up. All right, so I've got some money to back up the claims here today on this. Y'all seen what I just did? Literally 2 simple hoses, nothing crazy about them at all. Now, I did get all my hose material from Vevor. Hopefully it holds up. Obviously, it's not like that's Gates hose or some high-end stuff. We'll see how well it does. I run equipment all the time on the channel, but there was huge savings there. That 3/8 hose, the way I bought it, about 80 cents a foot. The 1/2-inch hose is about $1 a foot. And I even splurged and bought Gates fittings. I didn't do some knockoff off-brand fittings. So I'm about to do a price comparison right here. I could have did this even cheaper. Let me cut this fan off. I feel like it's too loud for the camera. So as I was saying, I could have done this even cheaper if I hadn't bought quality name brand fittings. It's just what I decided to buy. So I'm tossing up a receipt right here, y'all. This is the same exact hoses built for the same machine and same bucket, and a buddy shared this with me. Now, I blurred out all the personal information because I'm not bashing nobody here. Businesses have to make money. They have to mark things up. They have a lot more overhead and inventory than I do. But for these same 2 exact hoses, same exact fittings, everything, look at that price right there. The total come out to $443. Scroll down to the bottom line with me. Maybe I'll throw a red circle around this right here. Here's one of the more shocking things. Not only did I get all the fittings for like 50% off, even the same identical fittings by ordering them myself, but here is where, oh, it really gets stuck to you. Look at the hydraulic hose down there. So 3/8 hydraulic hose, looks like there was 12 foot of it billed at $11 a foot. $132 for the hydraulic hose. Now y'all, again, I'm running a lower quality hose here. It could split on me tomorrow and I could regret this, but the reviews were so good online from actual hydraulic shops running this that I felt 100% confident, like almost 5-star reviews. Look at that, $132 for 12 foot of hose, $11 a foot, and I'm paying 80 cents a foot. Talk about some savings. So what this person paid for 12 foot would have bought me about 150 feet of the current hose that I'm getting. You see where the savings is? So I added up all my fittings and the hose used. I have $175 in those same 2 hoses that someone else just had built for $443. So that gives me a savings of $268, and I could have saved a lot more money if I'd have went with non-name brand fittings. So $268 saved on 2 very simplistic hoses that I whipped up here in the shop. All it takes is doing that job twice, and this machine is paid for. Then do a simple job like that a time or 2 again. All my 200 feet of hoses and spare fittings and everything else I bought covered. Now in the future I'm going to have to continue to buy hydraulic couplers and extra fittings, but you see where I'm going with this? Insane savings. Not only can I do this after hours, weekends, holidays, and I don't have to take time to stop my job, run to town. Maybe they're closed for lunch. Maybe they've got a bunch of people ahead of me. Waste potentially hours of time to get back working right in the shop and make these up. Now the other big question, how long does a Chinese hydraulic press last? I do not know, but Who cares? The savings there. 2 jobs can potentially pay for this. If I only get a few years out of this and save myself thousands of dollars, money well spent. I will turn around and buy another one. Now, there are some name brand ones of these that I think are maybe American made, but they're like over $3,000. I understand, hey, buy American made, all that good stuff. That does not make sense to me. I'd rather go continue to support my local hydraulic shop, which, by the way, I'm going to continue to do. I just went there and bought fittings today. I bought some oil and stuff from them last week. I'm going to continue to do that. But when it comes to the big money saving items, I'm going to take advantage of learning a new skill and taking care of this in my shop. Would I use this for starting a hydraulic hose business? No, I wouldn't. I'm sure the longevity is just not going to be there. That's where one of those big name brand $3,000 models start making sense. But if you go into the big hydraulic shops, they have models on the floor that are tens of thousands of dollars, some of those presses. So what truly got me into this, y'all, just a while back, I got a grapple that I had to rebuild. Literally had to rebuild a few cylinder hoses on there, some fittings, and run 2, I think it was 3/8 hydraulic lines down the boom of my tractor. Those are lengthy lines. Let's just say there was 8 to 10 foot of hose per line, and then the few little fittings and everything else. I had no idea what to expect. Went in there, was thinking 350 bucks, I don't know. It's just rubber hydraulic hoses and a few other things. Just under $1,000 was my bill. Sticker shock set in. Then I went back to get some more hoses made for another excavator attachment. It was about $450 for 2 hoses. They are big hoses, but 2 hoses. Then I started researching this right here because I kind of felt like things weren't adding up, if you know what I mean. And now having the same exact fittings, the same exact hose links and all, that we just built an accurate comparison other than the name brand hose versus cheap hose. Look at that savings right there. I should have did this a long time ago. This would have literally paid for itself with that very first job that I paid almost $1,000 in hoses on. Now there's a bad side to this. I have to do all the research. I have to find the specialty fittings. I have to order them in. That may take 3 days, or I can stop, go to my local hydraulic shop, support them, pay twice as much money to get the fittings off the shelf, but it does support a local business. But $11 a foot hose versus 80 cents a foot, I don't think I will ever pay for hose at a shop again, because that is an insane markup, and that's where I am really saving my money. Don't forget labor as well. They're gonna bill a lot higher rate in town than I bill myself, so to speak. This right here was a no-brainer. I wish I had did it a long time ago. I know some of y'all been telling me to do it. Shame on me for not listening sooner. If you want links to any of this stuff, again, there is so many people selling these. They all look identical. One might be painted black right here, but they are identical. Just go for the cheapest model that you can. And if you want links for this Aero hydraulic pump, again, I bought everything here, not sponsored. I'll put a link down in the description. Now, if I can find affiliate links where I can earn a little money, I'm gonna put those there. And I also have discount codes that I'll put down there as well for you to save some money. All right, fantastic episode coming up in a few weeks. We've got other big builds and stuff coming before we show off this bucket, but we've got some big trenching jobs, ditch digging jobs, things I've never done before. I can't wait to show y'all what we just built these hoses for. It's a sweet attachment. Catch y'all on the next one.